The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has warned Harvard University that it could lose its ability to enroll foreign students if it doesn't meet demands from the Trump administration. This comes days after the Trump administration froze $2.2 billion in funding for defying Trump's campus demands. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem sent a scathing letter this week calling for detailed records on Harvard's foreign students, including information on any allegedly illegal or violent activities. Noem also announced the cancellation of over $2.7 million in grants to the prestigious university and accused it of creating a hostile learning environment for Jewish students amidst pro-Palestinian activism. This escalates the Trump administration's push to exert political supervision over U.S. schools and their faculties. Trump administration has threatened universities in the U.S. with federal funding cuts over pro-Palestinian campus protests against Israel's devastating military assault on Gaza after the October 7th attacks. Harvard has rejected the administration's demands, with University President Alan Garbus vowing that the university will not surrender its independence or constitutional rights. Raymond Vickery, former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, is joining us live from Washington, D.C. in the United States. Thank you very much for being with us today, Raymond Vickery. What do you make of this, war between Harvard University and the Trump administration, growing with each passing day?
Well, thanks very much for having me. I think this is a very crucial time in the United States and really for freedom and democracy around the world. Since World War II, the United States, along with other great democracies like India, have been in the forefront of promoting not only peace and prosperity through institutionalized rule of law, but really a respect for human rights, freedom, freedom of speech, press, and all of those which we have held dear in the United States. That is changing at this point. This attack on Harvard is really an attack on opposition thinking at all. The idea is that you should fall in line with President Trump and his views, or you're not worthy of being an independent organization. So the United States at this point needs help from other democracies, from people around the world who value freedom of thought and freedom of expression. And I would point out the attack on Harvard is not an isolated incident. There was the attack on other institutions of higher learning. Vice President J.D. Vance has said that higher education is the enemy. And the reason for this is, as was pointed out perhaps or foretold with George Orwell's 1984, is the first thing you want to do when you establish an authoritarian regime is to do away with thought which does not comply with yours. So this is a very difficult time. One hopes that our institutions will hold. We have a separation of powers, a judicial system, a legislative branch, which are supposed to act as a check on the president and the executive. We're now engaged in a great struggle to see whether or not those institutions will hold. And we need help, quite frankly, from others who value independence, who value freedom, who value the ability to think for yourselves. But this is going forward not only with Harvard, with Columbia University, with Princeton University, with University of Pennsylvania, and then it's spread over into the media as well, attacks on the public broadcasting system, the National Public Radio, in order to be able to consolidate power in President Trump and his allies.
So how do you see this, moving forward, Raymond Vickery? Is Harvard University unlikely to back down, as we've seen in the letter, of course, that their president sent out recently to students and faculty? Or do you believe that they could face, of course, now even foreign students perhaps getting affected by now, these homeland security measures, if they are enacted already, reportedly they're losing about $2 billion in grants.
Well, I don't see Harvard backing down at this point, and knock on wood, it's not going to happen. I think that what will happen is that it will go to the courts, and there will be a fight for due process. But as I said earlier, the question now is whether or not the judicial branch is going to be able to stand up and defend basic principles in terms of freedom of speech, freedom of thought, the independence of organizations from the executive branch. And the jury, as they say, is still out on that. The Supreme Court has given mixed signals. One was when they gave a grant of immunity to presidents for anything done is official acts. And of course, almost anything the president done can be closed as an official act. On the other hand, as has just been pointed out by Mr. Hitchcock, the Supreme Court seems to be standing up in a case of this deportation to El Salvador. So now it'll be faced eventually with this. It'll wind its way through the administrative and court proceedings. But whether or not we're going to be able to hold or not remains to be seen. The ultimate ability of the legislative branch to step in will be tested next year, of course, when we have midterm elections.
Okay.
The problem is that unless you have a strong judicial branch, there can be changes to manipulate elections. But the attack on Harvard is not isolated. I don't expect Harvard to fold. There have been other universities who have folded to some extent and gone along, but I think that at this point, Harvard, with its very large endowment and its long historic attachment to freedom and the basics of the American Constitution, is not going to fold.
All right. Appreciate you joining us, Raymond Vickery.